And so we move to our final award, the Pride of Britain Award for Lifetime Achievement. Many of us are concerned about human freedom and injustices, but there are a few mavericks in Britain who have the conviction to fight for their beliefs, regardless of the odds which are stacked against them. One man has campaigned against dictatorships, governments, and torture since he began his fight for the freedom of others from a tiny office in London 40 years ago. His campaign became Amnesty International. Here to pay testament to Peter Benenson, please welcome Cherie Blair.
It's been said that for evil to triumph, all it takes is for good men to remain silent. Well, Peter is a good man, and for 40 years he has stood out against injustice and tyranny. It's not just about human rights, it's about individual people. The millions of people throughout the world who have written in and campaigned, and the thousands of people whose lives have been saved because of the efforts of Amnesty International. So I'm proud to be here tonight to present this award to a man who makes it quite clear what it means to be British, and for an organisation which means that Britain is a force for good in the world.
In 1960, lawyer Peter Benenson read about two Portuguese students who'd been thrown into jail by their government. Their crime? Proposing a toast to freedom. Peter was so outraged that he wrote a groundbreaking article in the Observer newspaper, appealing for members of the public to write to the Portuguese authorities demanding the students' freedom. Amnesty International was born. As letters of support flooded in for the students and other prisoners of conscience, Peter realized the appeal could become more than a one-off campaign. Amnesty became a continuing international movement.
There were, of course, difficulties. Nobody knew about appeal for amnesty in foreign governments. We had to make our name known.
40 years later, Amnesty has become the world's most respected human rights watchdog. It covers 140 countries, has more than 1 million members, and is feared by the world's most brutal regimes. Amnesty's success is due to the simple genius in Peter Benenson's idea: public pressure.
Amnesty for all! Amnesty for all!
Amnesty should include every religion, every race, every language, and every colour in the political spectrum.
Amnesty works on many levels. Each year, members around the world work on behalf of people threatened with imprisonment, unfair trials, torture, or executions. The Amnesty we know today is that of an organisation spanning the globe. Remarkably, it all stems from one man's mission.
Don't give up the fight.
But Peter Benenson has shunned the limelight. Every time he's been offered a knighthood, he's replied with a letter listing the British government's own human rights violations. Without him and his dedication to his fellow man, many more people in the world would still be suffering unnecessarily. Before we meet Peter, here's a message from a huge supporter of his from the world's biggest band, U2. It's Bono.
As someone who's been inspired by Amnesty International about half of my life, I would like to pay respect, pay homage to Peter Benenson. Great man, a great thinker. The thought was a simple one: write a postcard and change somebody's life, you know, or change the way a regime thinks about somebody's life. This is a great idea, and a lot of us have been inspired to follow you down the road, Peter. I'm one of them. There are many, many others who would toast you tonight if they could. I can, so I will. Here's to you.
And now, ladies and gentlemen, a modest man, Peter Benenson.
most gratefully accept this award for Amnesty's million members and supporters around the world. It is they who work for our objectives to secure the release of prisoners of conscience, to stamp out torture, and to end the death penalty. On this occasion, I think of those whose non-violent opinions have caused their arrest. And I think, too, of those whose broadcasts, papers, and speeches have been suppressed. The more who join Amnesty's aim of preserving life, limb, and human dignity, the greater the effect. I will not be around to see the culmination of this end, but I hope my grandchildren will. Thank you very much, sir.